I'm Pablo Hinojosa. I work for APNIC.
And I'm Craig Ng. I work for APNIC too.
Excellent. So we're here to talk about this IANA Stewardship Transition process from the viewpoint of the RIRs and why this is important and what is happening next. I think it's a very good time to start talking about what has happened in the last few months with regards to the RIR proposal that will go to the team that will compile a final document that will be the key for this thing called the IANA Stewardship Transition process. There has been a lot of work recently, and you have been part of it from the APNIC community. I think it's a good time to do a recap of what has happened and what is this final output from the RIR community going into this important process.
I think our community has been crying out over a very long period of time for this process to actually happen. So I think the community is incredibly happy that this process has started. In fact, this completes the privatization process of the internet. US government announced back in 1998, I think, that the internet will be privatized, and it went from the US government to ICANN in 1997-98, and the idea at that time was that it would move to the private hand like us by the year 2000. So it's taken about over 15 years for this to happen, and we are very happy that it has finally happened.
Craig, you are part of this CRISP team. So what is that about?
So CRISP stands for Consolidated RIR IANA Stewardship Transition Proposal Team. Our job is to come up with a single proposal from the RIR community to submit to the ICG, the IANA Stewardship Transition Coordination Group of ICANN. So CRISP comprises of 3 representatives from each of the 5 RIR regions, 2 of which are community members and 1 is a staff non-voting member. In the Asia Pacific community, the 2 community members are Dr. Govind from NICSI in India and Izumi Okutani from JPNIC in Japan. And I think we are very well represented on the CRISP team. So at the start of December, NRO, the Number Resources Organization, which is the grouping of all the RIRs, and panel a CRISP team of 15 from 3 from each of the RIRs. And our task is to look at each of the proposal that each of the RIR has put to their community about this IANA stewardship transition process and to come up with a single proposal.
Wow, it was a short time frame, I guess, to produce all of these, and it seems that done and dusted. We met the challenge. We
have, and we have submitted our proposal to the ICG. The whole thing was done over a month and a half period, which is incredible, considering that there were 15 committee members and a lot of work. So within CRISP team is chaired by our own Izumi Okutani, who has done an absolutely marvelous job getting so many viewpoints together and for everyone to agree into a single proposal that has been submitted into the ICG. So our job was to look at the commonality of the proposal that each of us has brought to our community and to see where the commonality is and to look at what the differences are and to negotiate a proposal, a framework that is acceptable to everyone, and which is what we have done.
Let's talk a little bit about the CRISP team output document. It is a proposal that has a series of parts, of those agreed parts from the different RIRs. What is it composed of, this document?
So the CRISP team proposal to the ICG has 3 key elements. The first one is that ICANN will continue to be the IANA functions operator for the number resources community. The second one is that the RIR community will have a contract with ICANN to continue to perform this function, and this function was previously performed under a contract with the US government. And the third one is that we will have a review committee, which is a successor of the proposal that came out from APNIC region. We call it a review committee, whose job would be to advise the NROEC on an annual basis about how ICANN has performed its functions under the SLA, under the contract, over the past year.
I'd like to ask you a little bit about each of those parts. You talk about ICANN continuing to perform the IANA functions. This is something that ICANN has been doing since its creation. And I would like to understand why the RIRs in CRISP sort of decided that it would be good for ICANN to continue to perform these functions.
There are a couple of really good reasons for that. I think the community has overwhelmingly considered that ICANN has performed this function really well in the past. And in fact, in the ARIN region and in the APNIC region, they have commissioned a survey of their community members, and the survey result shows that the community is happy with how ICANN has performed this function over the past 15, 16 years. And for security and stability, it makes sense from the community's perspective to continue to have this function performed by the very body that's been doing it for all this time, rather than changing it at this time. So two reasons: the community wants it, and it makes sense from a security and stability of the internet perspective.
So the second part of this document, a key element of it, is SLA. That's a service level agreement that the RIRs will enter with ICANN to perform the numbering IANA function for the RIRs. What the SLA will entail, and what this document says about it.
The SLA is a service level agreement. It is effectively a contract where the RIRs contract ICANN to perform the number functions, one of the three IANA functions that is currently performed by ICANN. The idea is that our SLA will replace the NTIA contract that currently exists between the US government and ICANN. So currently all the numbers function are performed by ICANN under a contract to the US government. What we're trying to do is to replace that contract with a similar contract, but with the RIR community instead of with the US government.
That's a very interesting solution to the oversight question, isn't it? Is the oversight question answered by this SLA, in your opinion?
Exactly. So, in fact, there is not a lot of oversight that is carried out by the NTIA for the numbers function. So there are quite a lot of oversight over the domain names function. So I think the NTIA's role in relation to the numbers function are mainly focused on a contractual procurement for us. So NTIA doesn't actually have an oversight role, but it actually, by the contract with ICANN, get the services performed for us. So what we're trying to do now is to have the services performed for us by a contract to ourselves directly, rather than through the US government.
Great. The last part of this document is called a review committee. What is that about?
So the idea of the review committee is that rather than let the executive of the RIRs decide how ICANN has performed this SLA over the time, the idea is that we involve the community in this process. So the idea about the review committee is that it will be a committee of, say, 15 people, but we haven't decided yet. But it would have equal representation from the community of all the RIRs. And their job would be to have a look at how ICANN has performed the job under the SLA over the past year and advise the RIRs as to the adequacy of that performance and make recommendations to the RIR about how to proceed.
So, in summary, the CRISP team, which has been formed by representatives of the different communities of the RIRs, have produced a proposal that, from the numbers perspective, will be sent to this ICG, the IANA Stewardship Coordination Group at ICANN, that will compile the whole set of proposals, not only from the IP numbers perspective, but also from the other IANA functions, which are the protocol parameters and the domain names. So the job of the numbers side of things is done, and the community of the IP addressing world has met the challenge of responding to this call from the NTIA announcement to make the community take responsibility over this oversight process. That's a great achievement, I think. But what is next? So this will go to the ICG, and then what?
So what the ICG will do is that they will receive submission like the one from IP resources, IP numbering community, from the domain names community, and from the protocols and parameters community. So what they will do is to consolidate the three proposals and to then submit the consolidated proposal finally into ICANN board. And I think the target is that this will happen in about 3 or 4 months' time. What the ICANN board will do is to directly transmit that proposal to the US government without actually making any modifications to it. ICANN board, of course, has liaison members on the ICG, and if there are any issues, then it should be raised between now and then. But ICANN board has no role in really changing or censoring the proposal. It will simply transmit the proposal to the US government.
And this will be sent to the US government before the expiration date of the current IANA contract, which is the 30th of September of this new year of 2015. Whew, that is a big task. I'm really proud of the numbering community to meet this challenge. I think this somehow summarizes sort of the work done, and we truly hope that the whole CRISP proposal will get sort of into the final document to the US government.
Look, I think, like you, I'm very impressed with how the RIR and the numbering community has got together in a very short space of time to come up with a proposal that addresses each community's concerns and desires. So the next step really would be to discuss this further at each of our community events, and our next meeting in Fukuoka in early March, we will have an IANA Stewardship Transition segment where we will discuss this and have further discussions with our community on this subject.
So there have been different sessions at our APNIC conferences around this subject. Even before the NTIA announcement in our meeting in Petaling Jaya, Malaysia, then a session where initial draft that then was the basis for the CRISP proposal was, APNIC meeting was the first one of the RIR meetings, and APNIC 38 in Brisbane kick-started the whole RIR process for this, and I'm very happy about that.
And there are a lot of reporting back, I think, to our community. So I write a blog about the updates from the CRISP discussions, and most of our discussions are really put on the IANA transfer mailing list within the APNIC region. We hosted a community briefing session in between the first and second draft of our final proposal, and we received a lot of feedback from our community members, and really overwhelmingly in support of what we have put forward what we are proposing to put forward.
So at the blog.apnic.net there are a few postings that have the full history of the whole process. Then within the process there has been an email list created within APNIC, and then the CRISP team had an email list hosted by the NRO, which is the collective of the 5 RIRs. And then all this went into public comments. Each draft that the CRISP team produced went through public comments integrated comments from the community, and that's what at the end produced this document that we're publishing, right?
Absolutely, and every single comment from the public are considered by the CRISP team. So there is on the NRO website, which has the CRISP activities, there is a spreadsheet that tracks every single comment made by the community with a response. So some of the comment resulted in a change to the proposal document. Some are questions that does not require a change to the document, but the answers to those questions are given in the spreadsheet. So very transparent.
It has been a pleasure to have this experiment being performed with you. Congratulations for the CRISP output, and look forward to have more of these media intensive sessions throughout the year.
Thank you, Pablo.